So this evening actually looking like a pretty nice night if you want to head outside, grab dinner, maybe sit out on the porch. It's going to be a nice night to do that. So let's take a live look right now from our College of Charleston camera looking out towards the Holy City. And you can see we do have a few clouds. Majority of the cloud cover right now is along the coastline. Here's a look at your forecast for the rest of the evening. Coming up here at 7 o'clock, we're at 78 degrees, down to 73 at 9. We're at 64 as you wake up tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. and kick off your Monday. Again, mainly clear skies through the overnight hours. Temperatures right now are in the low 80s across the board. Not a bad night right now. 81 in Pawleys Island, Folly Beach, Moncks Corner. It is 82 currently in Somerville and Georgetown. 83 right now for you in Walterboro. We're headed for overnight lows in the 60s across the board. Even at the coastline, you're going to see overnight lows into the upper 60s. We could see a few upper 50s sprinkled in well inland and north of the lakes. Light and variable winds overnight tonight with mostly clear skies. Mainly sunny for your Monday. Should be a nice day. I think you can leave the umbrellas at home tomorrow. High of 88 in Walterboro, 83 in McClellanville tomorrow afternoon, 85 for you in Kingstree. We're looking at a high of 85 in Mount Pleasant and Moncks Corner, 82 at Edisto Beach and the Isle of Palms for your Monday. As we take a look at the satellite radar picture, it is a quiet night. Again, we do have some cloud cover moving in off the Atlantic at this point in time, but it's nothing that's going to inhibit any of your outdoor plans this evening. That stationary front finally starting to make a little bit of a move here. It's drifted back up to the north, although we do still have some showers offshore. What we're really paying attention to, though, as we head into the middle to later part of the week is Matthew. This is, of course, what everyone's talking about because we still don't know the specific impacts of Matthew on the southeast United States. What we have is a low pressure trough that will come into play as well as a high pressure ridge out over the Atlantic. These are going to be the two steering features, and which one wins out is where will help determine that track for Matthew. So at this point in time, once it gets into the Bahamas past about Wednesday, there's a lot of differentiation in the models at this point in time. Even with the track about 200 miles off the coastline, we could still see tropical storm force winds here in the low country. And that is because the tropical storm force winds even now extend out about 200 miles from the center of Matthew. As it continues to move up to the north, our in-house model does move it a little bit closer to the coastline. We still need to iron out whether or not that's actually going to verify at this point in time. So as you take a look at your 7-day forecast, what I can tell you is that once we get to Thursday on into the early part of the weekend, those are really just placeholders at this point in time. Mostly sunny skies on Monday. What we are going to start to see on Tuesday and Wednesday is the breeze pick up, regardless of how close Matthew tracks. That's because high pressure to our north will sandwich us between Matthew moving up from the south. That tight pressure gradient is what's going to kick up those winds. So expect winds up around 20 miles per hour by the time we get into late Tuesday, and that continues into Wednesday, Thursday. At the very least, we are going to see minor issues along the coastline and some thunderstorms as well as some gusty winds. Our forecast for tomorrow, 85 degrees. Our current total for the month of September is $2,000 to the Charleston area senior citizen. What most people don't realize is storm surge is actually one of the deadliest parts of a hurricane. That's why we are talking about it and want to make you aware of what we're looking at with this forecast potential. And it is a very serious threat at this point in time. So as you take a look at the storm surge map here, we are now talking 6 to 9 feet of inundation. And inundation actually means, it is a different term from the old storm surge term. It actually means 6 to 9 feet of water above ground level. Obviously, the further away from the water source you move, whether that's the ocean, whether it's a creek, whether it is a river, the potential for that level goes down a little bit, but we're still talking about a good amount of water. So if you live on the barrier islands, there's potential that these islands could be completely covered with water because you have water coming up from both sides at this point in time. We're also very concerned about this because we had high tide earlier this afternoon just before 1 o'clock, and the tidal basins were very full, unable to really let all of that water back out into the ocean because of that onshore flow. And with that onshore flow continuing to push the water from the Atlantic up to the coastline and in further, we have serious concerns about the potential for the inundation at this point in time. We've also been receiving reports from Beaufort County of starting to see some of that inundation take over roadways at this point in time. No reports so far yet from the area from Colleton County, Charleston County, Dorchester County, and Berkeley County at this point in time. And keep in mind, this is a potential threat inland as well. Anything that rises or falls with the tides.
Yeah, it is.
Hey, Chrissy.
Hey, good evening, guys. And I want to address something because we keep getting a lot of questions from folks hearing us talk about inundation. And there's a confusion, I think, between a lot of people as to what that actually is. So the old term was storm surge, and that was actually from sea level. The National Weather Service in the last couple of years has been transitioning over into using the word inundation, which is a different term. And that is actually taking the guesswork out of it. Before, when you had storm surge, you had to figure out where is the elevation that I live at compared to sea level, what are the predicted tides to be at, and now they're taking all of the guesswork out of that. So they're actually trying to simplify this, and now they're using the word inundation, and that word inundation is meaning water expected above ground level. Now, it is a broad brush type of situation. So if you go to the National Hurricane Center website, they have an experimental product listed on their website there. And that is one of the other things people keep asking is, where can I find this information at? So it's an experimental product at this point in time, but it does give you a broad brush look at the potential forecast for storm surge. The official forecast that we have received from the National Weather Service is that we expect 6 to 9 feet of inundation. So that is water above ground level, specifically for the coast. It does decrease with elevation, especially as you get further and further away from the water source, whether you're talking about the ocean, whether you're talking about the Stono River, the Ashley River, whether it would be the Wando River. And you want to keep in mind, too, that inundation can affect areas inland as well, places in Dorchester County where you don't actually have a coastline, or inland Berkeley County. If you live along a waterway that is affected by the tides, rises and falls with the tides, you're going to see some issues with that inundation. So just trying to educate everyone on this new word that we've been hearing this time around. We really haven't used it much because we haven't had the need to use it. So the inundation forecast for the Charleston area is about 6 to 9 feet on the high end. We do expect those totals to be a little bit less, again, if you live at a higher elevation, a little bit further away from a water source, as well as a little bit further inland. And again, you can go to the National Hurricane Center website to get a look at, it's the slosh product is what they call it, and get a little bit of a better idea, but it won't let you zoom down to street level, again, because of that broad brush that they're trying to paint. And part of that is by design, because they don't want you thinking, oh, well, my house is safe. My house isn't going to see that inundation, when areas around you will end up seeing that inundation, that potential inundation, and then you're stuck on an island and nobody can get to you and you can't get off of that. So that's kind of a little bit more of an explanation. Again, one of the biggest questions we've been getting on Facebook, on Twitter, in emails, and so hopefully that clarifies that a little bit better for folks at home. Carolyn and Brendan?
Once again.
Yeah, that's right, guys. So let's talk a little bit about that tornado warning that was issued for Georgetown. I was just downstairs, as you said, with Rob talking about it. And we think that it may have been issued out of an abundance of caution because it is nighttime outside. So it's very difficult to see a tornado if it is coming at you. So the National Weather Service, of course, is keeping an eye on what's happening with the atmosphere as these bands continue to rotate in. And we've been talking about over the last couple of days that increased potential for tornadic activity or even water spouts to develop out over the Atlantic and start to rotate on shore. So I think that's what we're kind of looking at here. Just to give you an update from the National Weather Service in Wilmington, they have issued a tornado warning until 11 o'clock this evening. This severe thunderstorm is capable, as they say, of producing a tornado. That's the language from the National Weather Service. And this area is, the area we're talking about is around Jackson in Georgetown County, or about 7 miles northwest of Pawleys Island. The cell itself is moving west at about 45 miles per hour. So again, at this point in time, when you get these nighttime tornadoes, it is a very dangerous situation because you cannot see them coming because it's dark outside. So they're trying to keep people alert and they're trying to keep people safe out of an abundance of caution. So we're going to continue to watch for that potential, especially as the eye moves closer and closer to the area. When you get that eye wall starting to move close to the coastline, that does increase our risk a little bit for some of that tornadic activity. Now, we're not talking about, big tornadoes that we're worried about. These are going to be kind of smaller tornadoes, a little bit weaker in strength as well, but that doesn't mean that they're any less dangerous. We certainly want to keep an eye out for that, and of course, Rob is keeping a very close eye down in the studio on that. We're also concerned with the storm surge. The winds have been sustained, at least at tropical storm force, and we're getting these gusts that are definitely higher than those sustained winds. I'm not sure that I would call this all the way up to hurricane force at this point in time because I'm still able to stand relatively straight up and not necessarily being blown over. So I do still think it's below those tropical storm force wind gusts here in Mount Pleasant. But what we're getting is that combination of the wind and rain moving in right now. And you can hear the upper level winds humming at a good clip right now. So of course the upper level winds move a little bit faster than they do at the surface. At the surface you get some interference from the buildings, from the topography. But it's a pretty impressive situation happening in Mount Pleasant right here. And on top of the wind and a significant amount of rain that we're seeing in Mount Pleasant right now, we're also continuing to see this inundation of water. So the last time I checked in with you guys, the water was about at my ankle level, and now it's risen, I would say, at least 3 to 4 inches up, a little bit further up my boot at this point in time. Not quite to the top of my boots, but it is definitely continuing to rise at this point. We have a combination of that rainfall, but we're also close enough to the Charleston Harbor that we're getting that storm surge, that inundation of water above ground level.
Now this is a storm that still packs a lot of punch.
Boy, we're saying from Daytona Beach all the way up to Boston, feeling the effects of this Hurricane Matthew. No longer a hurricane, but still, wow.
Yeah, and it's not a hurricane anymore because now it's a post-tropical system.
But still has hurricane force winds.
Yeah, at this point it's basically just lost its tropical properties. It still has hurricane force winds, exactly, Carolyn. So it's still packing quite a punch. The good news is it's moving further and further away from the North Carolina coast. But as you said, we felt the rain effects all the way up into parts of New England. At this point, we're thinking that it's headed out into the Atlantic and not going to be an issue very much longer for anybody, which is the good news there. And especially for us here, we're going to rebound nicely in the weather department. We've got a lot of dry weather in the forecast, which is fantastic, and a really nice temperature forecast here in the next couple days as well.
Feels like fall.
Yeah, so for those folks who maybe don't have their power back yet, the good news is you're not going to be itching for the AC right now. As you take a look at your forecast for the rest of the evening, 72 at 6 o'clock, 64 at 8. We're at 61 at 10 o'clock and 59 at midnight tonight. We've got a lot of sunshine out there through the rest of the evening and clear skies through the overnight hours tonight. As we take a look at your forecast for tonight, a lot of folks actually going to see temperatures into the 50s, maybe even a couple of upper 40s as you look well inland. 52 for the overnight low in Moncks Corner for you, 51 in Somerville, upper 50s along the coastline. Still a bit on the breezy side though. If you've been outside today, you felt a little bit of that wind, even a couple of gusts from time to time. We're still talking a north wind at about 10 to 15 miles per hour, 15 to 20 miles per hour if you're a little bit closer to the coastline. Overnight low of 49 in Kingstree, 51 in Walterboro, 52 in McClellanville, and 56 for the overnight low in Kiowa Island. That's the temperature that you're going to be waking up to tomorrow morning. Tomorrow afternoon, we could even see highs in the upper 60s. And then some folks a little bit further down to the south, making it to right around that 70-degree mark. 70 for the afternoon high, Walterboro, Charleston, and Kiowa Island. 69 currently, Pawleys Island, Goose Creek, and Kingstree. Still that north wind at about 10 to 20 miles per hour as we head through the day tomorrow with a few higher gusts, again, mainly along the coast. 69 for the afternoon high, Somerville, Moncks Corner, and Georgetown, and 70 for the afternoon high on Folly Beach. Here's a look at your tides as we head into the overnight hours and into the day tomorrow. Our next high tide will be at 2:50 tomorrow morning and again tomorrow afternoon at 3:36 in the afternoon. Looks like those surge waters are really receding very nicely at this point, but still want to pay close attention to those tides. As you take a look at your 7-day forecast, a lot of sunshine there and those nice fall temperatures as well. We continue to see those temperatures inch up a little bit as we head into the middle to later part of the week, but still not bad. We're looking at highs in the 70s across the board, and overnight lows for the majority of areas are going to be in the 50s inland. Once we get into the middle to later part of the week at the coast, you're going to see your overnight lows creep up a little bit back into the low to mid 60s, but still very pleasant. Again, those breezy conditions continue for the next couple days, but those winds should start to die down by the time we get into the day on Wednesday.